My name is Randy Howell, and you're listening to the Faith and Fishing Podcast.
Welcome to the Faith and Fishing Podcast, where every episode I'll bring you an interview with a member of the fishing community, and they'll be sharing their faith stories and fishing memories with you. I'm your host, Cam Steele. Hey y'all, welcome back to the Faith and Fishing Podcast. I don't have too much in terms of housekeeping this time before we get to this episode, but I do want to remind you that if you would like to support the podcast, you can do that over on Patreon at patreon.com/faithandfishing. And to say thank you for your support, you'll get access to the unedited videos of my conversations with my guests before they come out. At the time that this episode comes out, there are 3 episodes up there, one of which will be brand new, and it is awesome. Another thing I wanted to let you know is that this episode's guest had me on his podcast recently as a guest, so if you haven't already, check out the Mindset podcast over on the Paddle and Fin Podcast Network. Alright, well, I've only done a little bit of carp fishing since the last episode, and I really haven't fished much at all this calendar year. Y'all, that means that it is April, and I am still fishless for 2022. We are going to have to change that, and soon. Well, yeah, that was a short intro, but we're still going to talk bait storage and learn from my mistake, one of my favorite rigs from the product spotlight, and a ridiculously good collection of essays on fly fishing and what you're reading before we interview this episode's guest, Mr. Chris Slywka. So let's take a quick break and jump into it. Whether you're a Ned rig vet or a finesse fishing noob like me, Jade's Jigs is your source for high quality finesse jigs that raise the bar by being lead free. Using a tin bismuth alloy not only makes Jade's Jigs eco-friendly, it also makes the jig lighter so you get the same profile with less weight for the fish to feel. Check out jadesjigs.com, that's JADESJIGS.com, to see their full lineup of jigs, styles, and colors. And since you're a Faith and Fishing listener, you can save 10% on your order by using promo code FNF10 at checkout. If you're looking for a photographer in and around the Raleigh, North Carolina area, the one I recommend you go with is Summer DeSalvo. Whether you're looking for family portraits, senior pictures, or business headshots, Summer's got your back. She's done family portraits for us and even a kayak photo shoot for me, and I have to say she's really fun to work with, goes above and beyond to get her shot, has a really fast turnaround time, and most importantly, takes amazing pictures. Check out her portfolio and pricing in the All Things Faith and Fishing link in the show notes, or go straight there at summerdesalvophotography.mypixiesite.com. That's summerdesalvophotography.mypixiesect.com. Y'all know I'm a multi-species guy, so sometimes I talk about things other than bass fishing in these segments. This is going to be one of those times. I'm going to be talking about storing bait. Whether you are making your own bait, catching your own bait, or buying it, at some point you are going to need to store it. Even night crawlers are going to do better when stored in a refrigerator. For me, I have done all of the above. I make my own pack bait when I fish for carp to use alongside the Wicked Carp Company boilies that we talked about on an earlier product spotlight, and it's nothing crazy, just breadcrumbs, instant oatmeal, hominy corn, sweet corn, and jello, but it takes up a lot of space and it can be messy. I've started storing mine in gallon-sized Ziploc bags, but before I did that, I would store it the night before or a couple nights before my fishing trip in a mixing bowl in the refrigerator. Now, some of you might get away with storing shrimp, cut bait, pack bait, or a can of night crawlers in the fridge. I would guess that most of you that can are not sharing a fridge with anyone. As you can imagine, the few times I made this mistake, my wife was not happy. So here is the best advice I can give anyone who uses bait and can do it. Get a bait fridge. Mine is out in the shed. You can put yours in the garage or wherever you can, and mine is just a little Walmart mini fridge. Best thing ever. Now I don't have to give away bait if I have some left over when I leave for the day, and I can make bait ahead of time. If you fish for catfish and you make your own stink bait, I'm not even going to go so far as to say that having a separate bait fridge is optional. It's a necessity. So yeah, y'all keep your spouses happy and get that nasty bait out of your fridge. Now let's take a break and jump into the product spotlight. With 30 years of experience of handcrafting lures under his belt, Mr. B of Mr. B Lure Company is making high-quality spinnerbaits, buzzbaits, jigs, underspins, swim blades, and more right here in the U.S. All of his skirts are hand-tied, and all of his baits feature a baked-on powder paint, all metal components, and only Owner and Gamakatsu hooks. All of his baits come in a variety of colors, and if you purchase a bait in the Battle Shad color, 30% of the proceeds go to the Wounded Warrior Project. To see the quality for yourself, go to MrBLureCompany.com, that's MRBLureCompany.com, to place your order and use promo code FAITH, the letter N, FISH, the letter N, POD 1X10 at checkout to save 10% on your first order. Savior Outdoors gives me confidence that no matter what happens, what I take on the water is coming back home with me. With retrieval devices for fishing rods, bow fishing bows, action cams, and even one that can be attached to your other gear, they've got your whole arsenal covered. When one of these devices goes in the drink, it releases a float attached to your gear by 60 feet of line so you can get it back, and the pressure-sensitive filter means that you don't have to worry about raining or dips in the water while landing a fish. At SaviorOutdoors.com, that's SAVUR Outdoors.com, you can use promo code FNFP15 to save 15% and try them for yourself. If you've been listening to the podcast since the beginning, you've heard the story of me catching my PB bass. It was a fatty of a 21-inch fish weighing in at 6.57 pounds. I've caught a couple since then that were longer, but they were nowhere near as fat. And I'm sorry, my fellow kayakers, I will always hold weight in higher regard than length. My reason is just simple math and bragging rights. If I catch a 1 pound 12-inch fish and you catch a 10 pound 24-inch fish, going by length does not give an accurate representation of how much bigger your fish is. Going by length, your fish was just twice as big as mine. But in reality, your fish was 10 times as big. That's why weight is and will always be more important when talking fish size than length. Anyways, that's not what I'm here to talk about. I want to talk about the rig that caught it. This is a rig that I really fell in love with in 2019, and it's the Tokyo rig. And if you want one that's pre-made, I don't think you'll find one out there that trumps the one from VMC Hooks. So the Tokyo rig is a worm or EWG hook attached by a swivel to a bit of wire. You put a bullet weight on the wire and then bend the end of the wire to keep the weight up there. Now, I think this was really meant to be a punching rig, but that is not how I use it at all. Where this rig has really excelled for me is on a soft, silty bottom. If you throw a Texas rig, the bait will often end up covered up by the mud, but with a Tokyo rig, those weights are separated and beneath the bait, so the weights will slide into that silt, but the plastic sits above the water, sits above the bottom where the fish is more likely to go for it. Those fish usually won't pin something down on the bottom, on those soft bottoms, because they don't want a mouthful of mud. So having it just a few inches or just a couple inches off the bottom of the mud makes a huge difference. But anyway, this is a rig that has put a lot of fish in the boat for me, including that PB. I'll have a link in the show notes to the Tokyo rig, but now let's dive into What You Readin'. What You Readin', presented by Quail Ridge Books, Raleigh, North Carolina's trusted community bookstore. This time on What You Readin', presented by Quail Ridge Books, we're going to be talking about a book on fly fishing, but first I wanted to tell you real quick about Quail Ridge Books. I've told y'all about the amazing selection, the customer service, and the fact that right now we're in Indy offering free shipping, but I also wanted to let you know about our author events. We have a ton of author events going throughout the year. We've been doing them virtually, but now we are again having author events in store, and the calendar is filling up. Go to quailridgebooks.com/faithandfishing and click on the events tab to see what we have coming up. Now let's jump into this book. This is one that I have been recommending on the podcast and in the store for a long time, and it's called A Fly Rod of Your Own, written by John Gierich and published by Simon & Schuster. I really hope I'm saying his last name correctly, but John Gierich has a lot of books out and has been published in Field and Stream, and if his other works are anything like this one, they are phenomenal. A Fly Rod of Your Own is one of the most relatable books I have ever read, and I'm not even a fly fisherman. It's a collection of essays about what it means to be a fisherman, about his travels, the devastation he's witnessed after major flooding, and more. As someone whose hometown has been hit by quote-unquote 100-year floods 3 times in the past 20 years, 2 of those happening in the past 5.5, 6 years, that one hit home. But so did all the others. Some of them are just flat out relatable. Some of them make you cry. Some of them make you laugh out loud. And some make you close your eyes and go, I'm telling you, this is one that you want to read. You can order your copy at quailridgebooks.com/faithandfishing. Now let's get Chris introduced. Atollas, based out of Charleston, South Carolina, is an eyewear accessory and gear company focused on enhancing your time on the water. Their floating sunglass retainers are the most technically advanced around. Over 5 years of engineering, testing, and exhaustive feedback from paddlers, anglers, and watermen have resulted in a patented design in a class of its own. They're incredibly light and comfortable, built for durability, sport a sleek, minimal design, float virtually all brands and models of sunglasses, and they're backed for life. So if you break them, Atollas will replace them. No questions asked. Whether you're fishing, kayaking, or boating, Atollas will save your shades from the dream. Head on over to atollas.co to check out their gear and use promo code FAITHANDFISH15, that's faith the letter N, fish the number 1, 5, at checkout to save 15% on your order. Okay, so yeah, it will not be a Faith and Fishing podcast apparently until Cam forgets to hit record. But this time we only lost about halfway through the ad before I realized it. So we didn't actually lose any of the conversation, which was good. And yeah, so I will get the hang of this StreamYard stuff eventually, I promise. But in the meantime, y'all bear with me. Today we are joined by Chris Slywka, who is he is the host of the Mindset podcast over on the Paddle and Fin podcast network. It is a fantastic podcast, y'all. Y'all make sure you go listen to it. By the time this airs, I believe there will be probably the latest episode will be featuring yours truly. So make sure you go check that one out. And Chris is he is a tournament angler and has grown exponentially in the past couple years in his angling. He's going to come on and talk about a few things. So I'm going to go ahead and get him in. And yeah, so Chris Slywka Fishing, welcome to the show, man.
How you doing, man? Doing great.
Awesome, man. So yeah, so go ahead and introduce yourself to our listeners. Tell us a little bit about who Chris Slywka is.
Yep. First, Chris Slywka from Chicago, Illinois. I'm been tournament fishing for a couple years now. I started as a co-angler, moved myself to the kayak side. I just wanted more freedom, more being able to make my own decisions and, kind of move around on the water at my own free will versus someone else telling me what we're going to do. And then I got into the podcast thing about 10 months ago with the Paddle and Fin Network, talking about the mindset. Basically, instead of always talking about what lure someone's throwing or what someone's fishing out of, it's basically getting people prepared for a tournament and understanding what goes through people's minds while they're out there fishing, whether it's trying to catch the biggest fish in the lake or a personal best or trying to win a tournament.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so I want to talk about the podcast for a second. So yep. You just kind of gave us the premise of it, which is an awesome premise, what are some of the things that you've gotten to learn from other anglers so far?
I mean, there's a lot there. There's certain things like last week I had on I think it was last week. I had on Drew Gregory, and his knowledge alone kind of sets the whole. Besides just the mindset thing, he went through how he prepares, why his strategy works, and then why it doesn't work at times. Just being out there as an angler. I mean, we're away from our families a lot when we're out here doing this. Some weeks at a time, some months at a time. I mean, just the whole aspect of things. And then there's certain things where I learned techniques when I wasn't even trying to. It's I did a whole episode on how someone can learn a new technique and learn how to put down what they're used to using just to pick up something new. I learned how tournaments are ran from a tournament director side, and kind of everything that goes into that. I mean, there's a lot. Like when you ask the question, I'm like, we're gonna get off the podcast and be like, oh man, I should have said that. Oh, I know I learned that.
Right? Yeah, that's awesome though. You've had a really, really, really solid group of guests to come
Yes.
on. I am honored to be a part of that list. But
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So what was the process like trying to decide that you're going to do it? Was it like right away, I know I want to do this, so let's do whatever I can to make it happen? Or was it something that was kind of an idea for a little while, and then it kind of, you were like, maybe not. What was your mindset there?
It was an idea for like 2 years.
Okay.
One person I really look up to in the fishing industry is Gerald Swindle, and he's the only one that I know of that just goes and does seminars and things about mindset and about getting prepared for tournament fishing. And that kind of gave me the idea of it, and I kind of just sat on it. People said, because of my voice is too low, it won't work, or because I'm not really talkative at first, I'm a shy person at first, that it wouldn't work. How are you going to talk to people when you have a hard time talking to people in person? So like little things like that, they kind of get in your head at times. And then I brought it up to Brian after we were doing a paddle and fin trail series last year, and I brought it up to him. I said, hey, I was thinking about this idea. How can I get started? And he's like, well, just jump on with us. Awesome. And that kind of, and then he was my first guest because we were already building a friendship at that point. So it just made it easier. And then, obviously I had my struggles in the beginning where it was hard to keep a conversation, or it was hard to get to know the other person through a podcast as you were trying to have a podcast.
Absolutely. That is awesome that you say that. I'm over here in my head really. I'm the same way. Like, my daddy used to introduce me to people, say, this is my son Cameron, he doesn't talk to people. So for us to be sitting here on having a conversation on a podcast, both podcasters is a testament that encourage anybody that's listening that has a podcast idea to just jump on it. And if you need advice on how to get started and everything, ask your favorite podcaster, especially in the fishing community. Like, we're pretty approachable. We're easy to get a hold of. And
we're not super famous, so
yeah. Well, I mean, speak for yourself, man. I've got what, 400 followers on Instagram.
Yeah, but yeah, I would say the same thing. Just go out and do it. The podcast is the best thing that I've ever done for my career, for my fishing career, man.
Absolutely, I've gotten to learn so much from so many different people. It's been awesome. Yeah, man. So kind of give us an idea of how you got started fishing. More so, less the how and more the who. Who was it that got you started?
It was my brother that got me started when I was really young. He took me out a bunch, but I didn't learn tournament fishing until I didn't even know it was a thing until I was 20 years old. I just kind of knew go fishing, go have fun, worm on the hook type of fishing, catfish, whatever bites type of fishing, until I was sitting at a pond with my little nephew, and he said, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna go to the Bassmaster Classic," and let's start asking him questions, man. He had to be like 14 or 15 at the time, but he's like, yeah, people do tournament fishing, people do, they go to tournaments, they win trophies, they win money. I'm like, oh well, I didn't know this was a thing. And this is way before kayak fishing got popular, or it was even a thing at that. Yeah, and that's kind of how I got started. Like, I started doing research on it. I started reading a bunch of books on it. I started really like kind of dialing myself in, and 10 years later, I'm here now. But it's been a long and hard 10 years, man. To build the skill up and to be confident enough to go out there and feel like you have a chance at winning. It takes a lot. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so at this point, what how many different trails have you participated in?
I've only participated. Well, I did the Bass Nation stuff for a little while. It kind of got expensive because I was still really young when I was doing that. Then I kind of took a break from it. I didn't take a break from fishing necessarily. I was always fishing and like trying to get my skills better. But financially, I needed to take a break from the tournaments just because it's a pay-to-play sport.
Right.
We all know that. And then on top of that, you got the tackle that you have to pay for it, the gas, hotels. It's especially out here in Illinois because our lakes suck and we always have to travel if we want to get some good fishing in, man. Like, there's very few and far between it, and a lot of the places out here don't allow boats. So, like, when I was a co-angler, we would have to go somewhere else in order to have a tournament because a lot of these places are electric motor only. Now with the kayak, it's a lot easier, but there's politics that went into that kind of drove everybody away from here.
Right.
But, yeah.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it's only been 3 trails because the other trail that I was a part of it's like the only one in Illinois. It's like one of 2 that are in Illinois. It's the only one without like a membership fee, and it's like as long as you pay, you can go to the tournament. You don't have to pay anything extra or anything like that.
I got you.
And then the other one was the last year where Paddle and Fin did like a regional series, and that's kind of really where I learned that I can actually do this.
Right.
Placing second in AOY was a big step forward.
Absolutely. I want to talk about the co-angler thing too, because so a lot of my listeners are from the saltwater side or just from the recreational side. They don't know a lot about the tournament scene because until I started this, I didn't either. And so I want to, like, for those who may not know, kind of explain what a co-angler is. You said you didn't have a lot of freedom. So kind of explain what a co-angler is and why you didn't have that freedom.
Yeah, so co-angler is basically you're fishing out of the back of someone else's boat, and you guys from what I did, you share the hotel, you share the boat, and obviously you share expenses. But at the end of the day, on the Bass Nation side of things, you're all competing to go to a one championship, and you're competing the way it's set up, or at least the way it was set up when I was doing it. You're literally competing against your boater to catch the same fish, and to go to this championship to have a chance to go to the Bassmaster Classic, which is like the Super Bowl of bass fishing. So, and you can't really, especially at that age when I was 20 and I was just getting into it, I was just learning, you really can't tell them, hey, I think this is a better fishing spot. We should go here. It's like the people that I got paired up with, all great guys. I still talk to them till this day, but it's my way or no way in some way, shape, or form. It's like this is what I know. This is what I know I'm good at as far as a technique or a style, or like I fish shallow or I fish deep. As far as that goes, like, so they wanted to fish their style, and even if it doesn't match your style, you're kind of screwed at that point. You're just sitting there hoping for something to happen, and you're competing against the guy in front of the boat. So he has no intentions of really helping you on tournament day,
right? So, coming from the Mindset podcast, what does your mindset have to be to go in and fish on the back of somebody else's boat, knowing that you're competing against a person who is in charge, who is, they can position the boat where you can't even cast to any of the good spots or anything. Like, what does your mindset have to be even remotely successful in that situation?
What I did a lot of is I just fished a lot smaller baits, or I fished a different color than they did, so at least once they got done, if they missed a fish, I still had a chance to catch fish because I wasn't throwing the same exact thing. A lot of people go in and throw the same exact thing as the guy out in front. Well, he's been doing it longer than you. He's way more invested in it than you technically are as far as dollar amount. All right, so if he's throwing something, there's a lot of times he's not missing a fish, and they're not going to come back and bite yours if they're not going to bite his, most likely. So I would throw things smaller, sometimes like crappie style jigs that like I would go that small to pick away at things that they couldn't get to. So I got really good with a spinning rod, and that's one of the main things I use. Yeah.
I hear you. That's I would not be a very good co-angler then, because because you got to force me to pick up a spinning rod most of the time. I'm a power fisherman through and through, and if I can't fish my square bill, I'm not going to be happy that day. Even if it is like it's in the dead of winter, it's the water temperature is 40 degrees. They're not going to be chasing anything. I'm still burning that square bill trying to get that light. Just trying to get it right in front of a face so that there's a reaction bite. Because getting that finesse bite is not my strong suit. I am learning.
Oh, we're learning every day, man. That's the great thing about this is we're learning every day, and even though we're all tournament fishermen, we all think we're really great. We lose a lot more than we win. Absolutely. In this game we do, so it can get tough out there, but I count like top 10s and I count cashing checks as wins more than I count getting first place as a win.
That's awesome. Yeah, so let's kind of start transitioning towards faith a little bit. How have you seen that mindset and faith kind of play together?
Well, I mean, you have to. Well, you should believe in something, right? So I believe in God. That's what I was always taught, and I think He helped a lot in what I'm doing. As far as like the mindset part of it tying into faith is, I mean, I haven't thought about it that way. I kind of see them as two separate things, right? Because you go into your mindset thinking you're gonna win. And faith has nothing to do with that, but faith has everything to do with the work that you put into it.
Okay.
Believing that He's going to keep you safe, believing that that you're going to get off the water. Thought about this a lot. So ever since you asked me to be on, I took a couple weeks to think about this. I don't think he can. I don't think faith or God or anything can help you win an event. You know, that's just the hard work put into it. But he can help you get positive mindset versus negative mindset in a way, you know, think positively, think like if something goes wrong, think, oh, well, that's supposed to happen, you know, because, and then the next thing that happens will be 10 times better because of this.
Okay.
It's a hard to explain, but
Right.
you know, like it's there, you know. Like before I get in the water, I always ask, you know, just keep me safe. I don't care if I catch a fish.
Absolutely. And I guess to kind of help with this part of it, kind of what is your faith story? What is it that what is it you believe, and how was it that you came to believe in what you believe?
Well, I mean, it was always taught to me to believe in God, and I believe I can be wrong about this. My parents passed away when I was young, so I didn't really get to ask a lot of questions. But I believe I was baptized Catholic. They say I believe it's either Christian or Catholic. It's one of the two, but you know they both believe in God in different ways. So I was always taught to believe in that, and yeah, I mean it's ever since I was really young. You know, and fishing just kind of tied into that, and that life ties into that. You know, I know you know that, like, so it's never been something like where like people told me, well, that's not right,
Okay.
or that's like false. It's just always been something that, and you put yourself around people that think similarly. Also, no, I mean, most of the time, I know doing this podcast, you probably get a lot of different answers, a lot of different things. But yeah, it's like I've never had someone tell me, "Well, it's not real," you know. And I'm
Right.
sure that I know there's people out there, but you know, why argue with people when everybody has their own belief system?
Absolutely.
You know?
For sure.
Yeah.
So you didn't grow up in church or anything. You just kind of you kind of base off of you understand what you were taught, and then you kind of base off of your own experiences, right? So
Yeah.
so let's talk about those experiences on the water. Like what kind of times on the water, like where does your you said you believe in God, or has there been any times on the water that like you feel like you've been close to God, or like God is like your faith in God has kind of been reaffirmed or anything, or that have there been times that have shaken that faith? Kind of go into that a little bit.
As far as like shaking it, not really on the water per se or anything. Not. I don't think there's anything that's been shaken. There's definitely been times where I'm like, okay, like, I'm trying to think. There's been times, but I'm trying to think of a good way to say it. Like, because there's been like, you know, thunderstorms and stuff like that, and you
Right.
stay safe and stuff like, and then that's when you like kind of think of it. But as far as like catching a fish or something, I don't think that way of it, because I think that's the hard work that's being put into it. Like I said, I believe he keeps me safe, and I believe like that's all I ask for. You know, at the end of the day, if I don't catch a fish, I still get to come home. Yeah, like I mean, we all still get to come home. We all still have our houses and everything. You know, that's the most
Absolutely.
important thing is staying safe out there. So that's all I ever ask for. Like I'm trying to think, like outside of it, I know he has. Outside of fishing, I know he has. There's been times where it's like I ask for something and then it just happens. You know,
Okay.
like with the kayak that I got, I know he helped me with that. Brian did a lot, but hey, I had to meet Brian in order for that to happen.
Right. And I mean, I know Brian. I know Brian's faith, and I know, without Brian being the kind of person that Brian is, that wouldn't have happened. So, if any of our listeners don't know, so Chris was given a new canoe. What was it?
It was a new canoe Pursuit, and it was fully loaded to the T. I mean, we didn't do that video justice because we were still waiting on some parts to come in. We were still waiting on a fish finder. We were still waiting on motor parts to come in. So,
but it's fully rigged out with lights. It'll have a fish finder and motor, and I don't even know what else. I know, man.
It's a lot. Like, I was shocked. I was shocked, at that point. I didn't really talk during that video. I didn't know what to say,
Absolutely. It's one of those times where it's okay to be speechless.
Yeah.
So, have you had a chance to take the Pursuit out a couple of times, right?
Yeah, we took it out that day. We got everything rigged up. We took it out on the river for like 2 or 3 hours. I took it out last Wednesday for a couple hours just to kind of really get a feel for it. And the boat's been amazing. But like I said, he God put me in a situation to meet him in order for this to happen,
Absolutely.
So I do believe that.
For sure. So yeah. So now you've got this Pursuit. You're getting ready to go down to Dale Hollow and throw the hammer down on some people.
I'm getting ready to go down there. I don't know about all that. Yeah, that's always the goal, but it's fishing can be fishing. It can.
Yeah.
It can be your day, and it can just be a grind. But at the end of the day, we just gotta. Yeah, and at the end of the day, we just gotta have fun with it. That's what I do every time I'm out there.
Absolutely. I'll actually, while I'm thinking of it, I'll go ahead and give you a chance to kind of plug the Dale Hollow trip, because I think it will be, whenever this goes up, it will have passed. Yeah. But for those watching on Patreon, they will be able to see this. It should go up today, so that'll be 2 weeks before the episode airs. So if anyone ends up watching on Patreon, go ahead and let them know about the Dale Hollow trip.
Yep. So Dale Hollow trip is happening April 2nd and 3rd, I think, are the official tournament days. A lot of us are heading up March 30th or March 31st, so a lot of our hosts will be there. If you want to meet somebody, if you want to meet me, Brian, or anybody like that, we'll be down there. And it's going to be a fun time. They have cabins available. They have I'm sorry about that. Cabins sold out. I believe they still have houseboats available. And they have campsites available. And it's $80 to join the tournament, but we're going down there to have fun. Excuse me. Amazing food, also. That's all I hear everybody talk about. And the fishing's amazing too. It's a world record holder for largest smallmouth caught, and they still, like, when I'm doing my research, you still see 6, 7. A 4 is like an average fish for them down there. Largemouth and smallmouth, both of them. And it's going to be a fun event, man. It's definitely going to be a fun event.
Absolutely. That place is on my bucket list. I was hoping to make it down there this year, but the event ended up falling the weekend before our anniversary. So we're going to be celebrating that instead.
Yeah,
So
we can't miss that day. I know that.
Absolutely, but yeah, I am. I'm hoping to make it over there at some point.
Yeah.
It's such a beautiful lake from the pictures, and I've been told that the pictures don't do it justice. So you'll have to let me know how pretty it actually ends up being.
I will. I mean, I know we do this every single year. This will be our second year doing this. We kind of got rid of the tour or regional series, if you call it that, this year. But we're definitely gonna always be doing our Dale Hollow Open around this time of the year. So if you miss it this year, be sure to be looking out for next year, because all you're gonna hear about is how much fun we had down there and how much food we ate.
Absolutely. So there are a few questions that we make sure we ask every guest, and before they slip my mind again, I want to make sure that I ask. So, what fishing story or memory means the most to you?
Probably the one where I learned about the Bassmaster Classic. We had a lot of great fishing adventures, but that's kind of like sparked everything that has now turned into all of this.
Absolutely. And you were fishing with your nephew, right?
Yeah, my little nephew. He was about he's all grown up now, graduated college, but that time I think he was about 14, 15.
What were y'all fishing for?
We were fishing for bass. He had a local pond by his house. We just had to walk across the street, and there was tons of bass in there.
Awesome.
Yeah. So we were bank fishing most of it. I got a kayak. He's afraid to get in one. He said he'll flip it. But I'm gonna get him to change his mind this year.
Yeah, for sure. They are a lot more stable than they used to be. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's what I told him. I'll change his mind this year.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't know about the secondary stability.
Yeah,
they feel that primary stability give, and they're like, oh, no.
Yeah.
But kayaks have or at least the really, really wide ones have a really solid primary stability, but they don't have any secondary stability. Once they reach a certain point, they're gone.
Yeah.
But the narrower ones, wow, that's a hard word to say. They have the primary stability gives, and then it catches, and then they have that secondary stability. Yep. That's why I always tell people, whenever you get a new kayak, take it out with nothing on it and flip it, because you can feel where the different stabilities are, and then feel this is the point of no return. So as long as I don't go here, I'm good. Now I'm comfortable with all of the rocking and everything.
Yeah.
Also gives you practice on getting back into it. If it ends up being one that's too hard to flip back over or something, then it may be worth looking into something else. But yeah. So yeah, and whenever you're out fishing with somebody, I know you said you were kind of a shy person. It's kind of a quiet person. I am too, but what are you typically talking about whenever you're fishing with somebody? Are you what's that conversation centered around?
Fishing normally. Even when I'm fishing with people who I know are probably better than me, I turn into like a guide. Somewhat. Because I'd rather see people catch fish than me catch fish. So if I start figuring something out, that's the first thing I do is, hey man, this is working. I'm throwing it here. Try this out. Even if they're catching fish, I just go into that mode of figuring out the puzzle. That way everybody talks about.
That's awesome.
And sharing that information with the people I'm fishing with, because obviously, I'm not competing against them at that time. We're out there to have fun and catch fish together.
That's awesome. Yeah. Have you ever had anybody that kind of was standoffish about that, or has everybody been receptive of it? And
no, because a lot of the people are either friends or people who want to learn.
Okay.
Friends, family, or people who want to learn fishing. I've never gotten paid for guide trips, but I have taken a couple people out that was trying to learn a certain body of water, or trying to learn how to like wade the river at times. And it was, you kind of call it a guide trip that I didn't get paid for. But like I said, they were still friends, just trying to learn
Right.
what I was doing.
That's awesome. I was wondering if you had anybody like me who they love learning, but they hate being taught. Yeah.
No, I know Brian has. They're best friends, and anytime we go up to Brian's lake, it's like he says throw a shaky head, and no one ever does it.
Yeah.
And he catches all the fish, and we just sit there and look at him, and still refuse to throw it.
That's awesome. That is awesome. That's the kind of person I tend to be a lot of times. Is I'm too stubborn to do what I'm being told to do by the person who's actually catching fish.
Yeah.
I'll sit there and I will watch them catch fish, and I'll be like, "Well, that lure you can't catch fish on that lure."
Yeah.
Catching a bunch of fish on it. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's how it is with some people, but I mean, it's still, we're all out there to have fun at the end of the day. As long as you have fun doing what you're doing or what you're throwing, I mean, at the end of the day, that's what it's about, Yeah, and there's going to be days where your technique works way better than mine, know?
Absolutely. So yeah, let's jump into what's your favorite. This is a segment we do with all of our guests. It's self-explanatory. I'll ask you your favorite in a few different categories. I know we talked earlier, and you didn't have a whole lot of knowledge of the Bible, so the first two you didn't really have an answer for. So we're gonna change things up just a little bit and ask, do you have a favorite quote to give us?
Yes. There's a few. I always post these quotes on Instagram. Let me try to pull one out for you.
For sure.
So,
and if you were watching
I'm sorry, guys. I am scrolling through trying to find.
You're good.
My quotes.
If you're watching on Patreon, down here, at Chris Slywka Fishing is his Instagram. If you want to check that out and see those quotes for yourself.
All right, this is one that I thought of. It says, stop going for the home run in life. Instead, build off of singles every day, and soon you will be winning the game.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
A little bit of baseball in there, a little bit of
Absolutely. I'm not huge into baseball, but I definitely understand the quote. That's good. All right, man. So what is your favorite fish to catch?
Bass. Has to be bass. The one that gets me the most mad is a muskie because it's so hard to catch. Yeah.
So you said bass. Is that smallmouth, largemouth, spotted, rock, striped, white, yellow?
I would say smallmouth bass just because of their fight.
Okay.
But I primarily fish largemouth just because it's easier access to me.
Okay.
But yeah, definitely smallmouth.
So smallmouth is the favorite one to catch. What is your favorite fish to fish for?
Largemouth, just because I've found a way to break down certain bodies of water to a point where I know I could go out there and catch them. And I know it's more of a mental thing where I'm trying to catch 5 or I'm preparing for a tournament or I go into a kind of like a practice almost, and to where I have that lake broken down to where it's like, oh, if I need to catch one big one, where would I go if I'm on this lake? Almost. So I would say largemouth for sure.
Okay, absolutely. And what is your favorite fish to eat?
I don't eat any fish. I think I'm somewhat like I'm mildly allergic because
Okay.
every time I've tried eating fish, it's almost like I don't necessarily throw up, but I get that feeling.
Right.
You know, before I can even swallow the food, before I can even swallow the fish down, I get that feeling.
Okay.
It's not a choice of like, it's not one of those things where I'm just not gonna do this.
Right.
It was I tried it. I've tried different species, and maybe it's how I cooked it too.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, it's never worked out in my favor.
Okay. So we don't eat fish. Let's talk about something that you do eat. What is your favorite fishing snack?
Um, Sunflower. I would say sunflower seeds.
Okay.
This is because it's something simple. You know, you could crack them while you're still fishing. Because I don't really like to stop. It's a bad habit. I need to break it.
Okay.
Especially during practice time and like tournaments. Because at the end of it, I'm just tired, hungry, and all the above of things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What do you have a particular flavor or brand that you
I just get like I normally just get the originals unless like they have like I know I haven't seen them lately, but like they had the Takis flavored ones, or like sometimes they'll have like the flaming hot Cheeto flavored ones,
okay.
like something like that. I'll get on occasion, but normally I just stick with the original.
Awesome. So whenever you're out fishing, if somebody wants to find your spots, they just follow the trail of sunflower
Yeah,
kernels.
yeah, yeah. But I'm normally pretty good at letting people just know where I'm at.
Okay. All right. What is your favorite body of water to fish? I don't need GPS coordinates or secret spots or anything, but just a body of water.
Favorite body of water has to be when we were in Michigan. It's called Clearwater Lakes, I think it's called, or the Clearwater Chain. Basically it's a series of 3 or 4 lakes all put together. And although I didn't catch huge fish, there's bigger fish in there. I didn't find them that tournament, but man, I think I was down there Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and I at least caught 20 to 30 fish each day.
Oh wow.
Like, I mean, when you could go out there and just have fun with it and not have to really feel like you're working for a bite, like that's a good fishery.
Absolutely. And you are somebody who seems like they don't have a whole lot of secrets. So I'm
Nope.
not gonna feel nervous about asking you this. What's your favorite lure to throw?
It has to be a drop shot. Favorite worm on the drop shot would have to, as of right now, would have to be the
Sorry,
oh, you're fine. You're fine. I'm trying to think of the name of it. It's like the dream shot, basically, is what it is. It was by Striking. It's one of the first ones I used. I was using another one from a company called Great Lakes Baits, but they since then went out of business. So it's back to that for now. But if you ask me this in 6 months, it could be something different.
Okay.
But it's always going to be a drop shot setup. And the only thing that really changes is the worms, depending on the species that I'm fishing for. You know,
Okay. How long of a leader do you use?
that depends. Depends how deep I'm fishing. Sometimes it's only a foot. Sometimes it's 2 to 3 feet. Depending on, I really go off of down scan and like 2D sonar to figure out how long I need that leader, depending on where those fish are sitting. And then I also will pitch it into grass.
That's awesome. Yeah, I am sorry for laughing. I'm sitting here
No,
with
I know.
a spaniel snore,
I know.
and
You're
she's
fine.
like dreaming, so her like paws are twitching.
Yeah.
I don't know if let's see.
Yeah, I see it.
Oh man. So yeah, and last but not least, what is your favorite time of year to fish?
It has to be like this time around springtime. Just because your chances for really big fish is around this time.
Absolutely.
I mean, summer you catch fish all season long, but your chances at the biggest one is now, right? Because they're feeding heavily. They're trying to get really fat before they go into spawn. So,
Absolutely. So you're a pre-spawn then?
yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And I just realized that on your shirt, that is a fly reel
Yep.
and not the Green Lantern logo.
Yeah.
But yeah, we didn't even talk fly fishing. So that's been something you've been really big into.
Yeah.
Also, what's your favorite fish to target from the fly?
Muskie. That's probably why I haven't caught one yet.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So with muskie fishing, are you using like really big flies, like we use really big lures whenever we're fishing for muskie, or?
Yeah, I'm using anything from, the smallest I go is 8 inches. But I've gone up to like a 14-inch fly. And like they swim and do all these crazy things, and it's really expensive.
14-inch fly. What kind of gear does it take to throw a 14-inch?
A 12 weight rod. It also depends how the fly is built too. I did a lot of fly tying myself. It makes things cheaper.
Right.
Some of these musky flies go for $50 for a piece of hair.
Right.
So
yeah, I haven't watched any musky tying.
Yeah.
I love watching fly tying videos. That is so satisfying to me to watch, like, just this these feathers and hair getting tied onto a hook.
Yep.
By the end of it, it's like, that looks like a shrimp. That looks like a fly. That looks like a bumblebee.
Yep. Yeah, so I started tying a lot of my own. I have a 10 weight that I throw my stuff on, but I also know that the flies I'm tying are really, really light. They're not really the hair. I don't know how to describe this, but the hair is not like really compact, and I'm not putting a whole, half a chicken onto a hook per se.
Right, for sure.
It's light and sparse, but it also makes a profile.
That's awesome. Well, we are going to start winding down, man. Let us know, what do you have coming up for you? I know we already talked about the Dale Hollow trip, but what else for you and for the Mindset Podcast? What do you have coming up?
Mindset Podcast, the next episode is with you. That'll come out next Sunday, or this upcoming Sunday. I'm confused on what day it is. We had a wedding on Sunday, so we've been in the hotel Saturday, Sunday until Monday, and none of us went to work yesterday.
Right.
So it's like everything's thrown off.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so your episode would come out Sunday. Then we had to Tennessee. The whole podcast crew, everybody who's involved will be head to Tennessee. And then after that, I have 3 weeks after that, I have Lake Geneva. In between that, I have an anniversary and her birthday to deal with. We all know that gets expensive. Well, but yeah, I'm gonna be a busy guy, man. And as far as the Mindset Podcast, we're trying to get more. I'm trying to get more guests on who do it professionally. I'm like even trying to get a couple of Elite Series guys on there. I don't want just it to be a kayak podcast, because there's more to it than that. And especially for my episode, because whether you're fishing out of a boat or a kayak or even from the bank, there's still a mindset to what you're doing and why you're doing it.
For sure.
So it's better to get the more people we could get in all those different areas, the more people we can reach.
For sure. And I want to give you an open floor for sponsor shout outs. Anyone you want to say thank you to, you go for it.
Oh man, who am I going to forget? That's always the tough question. First and foremost, Brian for everything he's done, and then Rocktown Adventures, who just came out this year. They're our paddle sports and outdoor recreation area for the Illinois area. They're located in Rockford. Outdoorsman Coffee, see me wearing the hat. They've been a supporter since last year, and I mean the coffee's just really good, man. Yeah. It's always nice to have a fresh cup of coffee in the morning. It's how I get my day started. I have to have coffee before I even talk to anybody. I am one of those people.
I talked about it on the podcast that went out today.
Yeah.
The tournament that I was in, that it ended up being really cold. The coffee was the only thing that kept me going.
Yeah.
There were times where it was like, I'm too cold for this, and I take a drink of coffee. It's like, okay, I can make it another 30 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and the good thing about their coffee is like, it's not like super expensive to get a bag of coffee. And if you're doing I do one brew in the morning, and the bag lasts me a month. So to pay $15 for one bag that's going to last you a month versus the $20 at the store for the well-known names, we'll say, because I don't want to bash anybody. To pay $20 for that and only have it for 2 weeks. I mean, the difference is there, and the coffee's good, and you get to decide how you want it made. You can get it full beans, or you can get it completely grinded up.
Awesome.
And then let's see. I mean, I want to thank New Canoe also. I mean, they're not necessarily a sponsor of mine, but they did help out a lot with that whole deal with Brian. Even though everybody's saying it's a funny story, funny inside story about it. I emailed Blake, who's the owner of New Canoe, and he's like, "Oh well, Brian did everything." And then I asked Brian, and Brian's like, "Well, no, they helped me." It's nobody wants to take credit for it, but everybody knows they helped out with it, type of situation. Yeah. So I mean, other than that, I don't think there really is. I mean, I don't have a lot of them, but the ones I have, I appreciate, and I try to do as much as I can for them,
Absolutely. And what about social media, videos, any of that good stuff? Where can people follow your adventures? Where can people listen to the podcast?
Listen to the podcast on any podcasting platform, and also YouTube through the Paddle and Fin Network. It airs every other Sunday. Like I said, your episode comes out this upcoming Sunday.
Hey.
And then everything else, YouTube, Facebook is just my first and last name. Send me a friend request. If I see that you're a fisherman of any kind, I'll accept the friend request. I'm not on there putting my personal life on there anyways. It's all fish pictures. So yeah, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, all of them are Chris Slywka Fishing. And the YouTube has been kind of silent because ever since I sold the last kayak, I've been waiting to get this one. So I should, by the time I get done with Dale Hollow, the YouTube should kick back up, and I want to also try doing more like quick how-to videos also on there. But that would be on the YouTube Shorts part of things.
Awesome. And that's SLWKA.
SLYWKA.
Yeah, SLYWKA. Think Chris Slywka Fishing.
Yep.
Well,
yeah, it's hard. It's a hard name, but like I keep telling Brian, man, like the more people I talk to and the more interaction I get, the more people will know the name.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, Chris, man, thank you so much for coming on the show. I've had a blast, man, and we'll definitely keep in touch. And you may end up convincing me to pick up a fly rod at some point, but But
Well, if you do pick up a fly rod, go after carp first. Don't go after muskie.
I would have to travel a ways to go after muskie anyway. So.
Yeah, don't do it. Carp's a fun species that you could probably find anywhere. Obviously, bass, same thing, especially during like the top water season. I'll throw poppers for bass at times. I use it more as obviously fun fishing. But like a way to like relieve stress, because it is a stress. It's a thing that can relieve your stress easily as you're just casting, even if you're not really catching anything, versus the conventional fishing.
Okay, absolutely. Well, man, thanks again. I'm gonna let you get off of here. I know it is getting close to that hour mark. So, yeah, man. Let's see it out.
Yeah.
Get Outdoors Pedal and Paddle in Greensboro, North Carolina offers a wide range of products and services designed to help protect the environment and enhance the time people spend enjoying the outdoors. With an expansive year-round inventory of kayaks, SUPs, bikes, kayak fishing accessories, paddling clothing, biking accessories, and more, Get Outdoors has established itself as one of the top paddle sports and biking shops in the Southeast. They also offer a wide range of kayak safety and technique courses to get you comfortable in your new boat. They'll even get it rigged up for you. Stop by the shop in Greensboro, North Carolina, or check them out at shopgetoutdoors.com. Another huge thank you to Chris for coming on the show and sharing his story and talking mindset with us. As always, Chris's links will be in the show notes, along with the link to the VMC Tokyo rig and the All Things Faith and Fishing link that will have the website, social media, merch store, and all of the sponsor links, included a link to get a fly rod of your own. And that's the book, not actually getting a fly rod of your own. That's going to do it for this episode. Y'all take care, and God bless. Thank you for listening to the Faith and Fishing podcast. Faith and Fishing is produced and hosted by me, Cam Steele, and is sponsored by Jade's Jigs, Get Outdoors Pedal and Paddle, Save Your Outdoors, Atollas, and Mr. B Lure Company. Be sure to give us a rating and a review and to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. That's going to do it for this episode. Y'all take care, and God bless.